Queen Amina was a real woman of flesh and blood and iron will who strode across the West African savannah in the 16th century, leaving an indelible mark on history that challenges simplistic narratives. She was not a myth or a folk tale, but a formidable historical figure, the warrior queen of Zaria, a bustling and influential Hausa city-state located in what is now northern Nigeria. Her story begins not with her own birth, but with the powerful legacy. She was born into a lineage of rulers and strategists. Her grandfather was a king and her mother the remarkable Queen Bakwa of Turunku was a revered and effective ruler in her own right, known for her wisdom and for fostering a period of peace and prosperity. From her earliest days, Amina was immersed in the complex and demanding arts of politics, diplomacy, and military strategy. Observing the intricacies of court life and governance, she demonstrated a clear disinterest in the traditional domestic roles prescribed for women of her station. While other girls in the royal household were learning embroidery and household management, the young Amina was in the courtyard. With a sword in her hand, her focus sharp and unwavering, she demanded and received training from the city's most skilled warriors, rapidly mastering cavalry skills, the use of weaponry, and sophisticated military tactics. Her ambition was as sharp and polished as the blade she carried, a clear sign of the sovereign she was destined to become. She was groomed for leadership not by accident, but by a perceptive mother who recognized the fierce and brilliant potential burning within her daughter. This royal household was her foundational training ground, and the entire kingdom would soon become the vast stage upon which her legendary saga would unfold. When the esteemed Queen Bakwa died, the kingdom of Zaria passed through traditional lineage to her brother Karama. This period following her mother's death was not one of idleness for Amina, but a critical time of consolidation, observation, and strategic preparation. She watched her uncle's rule closely, and she waited patiently, honing her skills and building her influence. King Karama, a ruler in his own right, was astute enough to recognize his niece's formidable and unique talents, consequently making her a central and influential figure in his court and a key commander in his army. Her influence grew exponentially during this time, not through the conventional paths of marriage or motherhood, but through the sheer force of her keen intellect, her strategic mind, and her unmatched military prowess on the battlefield. She personally led the formidable Zazo cavalry on numerous campaigns, for her uncle proving her bravery, tactical genius, and leadership abilities time and again. The soldiers under her command, seasoned veterans themselves, did not follow her out of mere obligation to their royal relative. They followed her out of sheer respect, admiration, and awe for her capabilities. She earned every single ounce of her authority through demonstrated competence and courage on the battlefield. She was a princess. In title, but in spirit and action, she was already a general shaping the army's destiny. This period was absolutely crucial for it. Was here that she built the unshakable loyalty and trust of the military, the very instrument that would later become the primary force behind her legendary and unprecedented territorial expansion. Upon her uncle's death, Amina did not hesitate or engage in political squabbling. She ascended to the throne as the undisputed Queen of Zaria, marking a pivotal turning point in the history of the region. Her coronation was not merely a ceremonial change of leadership, it was the dramatic dawn of a new and aggressively expansionist era for the kingdom. From her very first day as queen, her towering ambition was crystal clear to all. She was not interested in simply maintaining the kingdom she had inherited. She intended to expand it dramatically, to secure its borders and to project its power across the entire region. Her reign became almost exclusively synonymous with relentless military conquest and strategic fortification. She immediately initiated a campaign of expansion that was unprecedented in its scale and ambition in the region's history. Her personal philosophy was simple, direct, and brutal in its execution. She would rather lead an army into the dust and heat of battle than host a lavish banquet in her palace. She would rather forge a vast, powerful empire through strength and will than merely preside over a single prosperous city-state. This singular, relentless focus would go on to define the next 34 years of her life, and in doing so, she would fundamentally reshape the political and geographical map of West Africa. Queen Amina was not just a warrior, she was a brilliant military innovator and strategist far ahead of her time. Her most famous and enduring physical legacy was the introduction and construction of massive earthen walls around her cities and newly conquered territories. These were not simple defensive barriers, they were enormous fortified structures that became known throughout the land as Ganuar Amina or Amina's walls. These walls were nothing short of revolutionary for the region's defense and urban planning. They provided unprecedented security and a profound sense of safety for her subjects, allowing trade, culture, and daily life to flourish peacefully within their protective embrace. But they were also a stark and permanent statement of her power and dominion. Each new territory she conquered was swiftly encircled by one of these formidable walls, a colossal project undertaken by her forces and the local population. The wall was a physical manifestation of her control, a symbol etched into the very earth, proclaiming that this land now belonged to Zazao and was under the eternal protection and rule of its warrior queen. It was a masterful strategy that combined immediate defensive needs with a powerful message of permanent occupation and unassailable authority. The iconic image of Queen Amina leading her vast army is one of raw power, intimidation, and inspirational leadership. Historical accounts and oral traditions describe her as a towering physical presence clad in full battle armor, a striking figure who commanded attention and respect. She was always at the front lines, a living symbol of fearless leadership who shared the same risks as her soldiers. It was said that for the entire 34 years of her reign, she never spent a full peaceful year in the comfort of her palace. Her life was one of constant campaign movement and military engagement. She slept in a warrior's tent, not a royal bed. She strategized over maps, drawn in the sand or on parchment, not over tapestries and palace decor. Her army was a highly disciplined, mobile, and fiercely loyal force that struck profound fear into the hearts of her enemies. She was a master of psychological warfare, understanding that her reputation could be as powerful a weapon as her soldiers. Her fearsome legend preceded her often, causing rival armies and city-states to surrender without a fight, knowing they were not facing a distant monarch but a warrior, queen who would personally lead the decisive charge against them, her presence alone a harbinger of certain defeat. Her personal life became a subject of intense legend and what appears to be a calculated political strategy. It is widely recounted in chronicles that after each military victory she would take a lover for a single night from the conquered territory, bestowing upon him great honor and temporary prestige. Then with the cold light of dawn he would be put to death. This brutal and seemingly merciless ritual served a clear and pragmatic political purpose. It systematically prevented any emotional attachments or romantic entanglements from weakening her resolve or clouding her political judgment. It ensured that no local prince or nobleman could ever claim influence over her or the throne of Zazao through marriage or paternity. It was a stark, unequivocal message to all that her power was absolute, her commitment to her kingdom was total and unyielding, and she belonged to Zazao and its people alone. This harsh practice further cemented her image as a ruler who was as merciless and strategic in her personal politics as she was on the battlefield, leaving no vulnerability for her enemies to exploit. Under Queen Amina's relentless and visionary expansion, the kingdom of Zazao's influence and territory stretched to its greatest historical extent, becoming a dominant hegemon in the region. Her conquests were not random acts of violence or plunder. They were meticulously calculated geopolitical moves designed to control the most valuable economic assets of the era, the major trade routes. She astutely pushed her kingdom's boundaries outward, eventually securing access to the crucial shores of the Niger River, thereby cementing control over key segments of the vast trans-Saharan trade network. This network was the economic lifeblood of West Africa, a complex web of commerce and cultural exchange. By controlling and securing these vital routes, she brought immense and unprecedented wealth flowing into Zazao. Caravans laden with gold, salt, precious cola nuts, textiles, and slaves now moved under the guaranteed protection of the Queen's walls and her authority. Her military campaigns were therefore directly and intelligently linked to the economic prosperity and commercial dominance of her kingdom successfully transforming Zazzau from a powerful city-state into the dominant commercial and military power in the region. To fully appreciate her achievements, we must thoroughly understand the volatile and competitive world she lived in and ruled over. The 16th century was a time of fierce, unending competition. Among the House of Bakwai, the 7 true Hausa states, each vying for power and resources. Furthermore, there were constant, existential threats from much larger and more powerful neighboring empires like the Songhai to the west and the Bornu to the east. In this context, Amina's relentless warfare and expansion were not mere aggression for its own sake. They were a sophisticated and necessary survival strategy for her people. A small, stagnant state was a vulnerable state, a tempting target for absorption or destruction by its more powerful neighbors. By aggressively expanding her territory, building her formidable walls, and controlling trade, she was proactively creating a vast buffer zone to protect her homeland core. She brilliantly turned Zazzau from a potential target into an undeniable regional powerhouse that commanded respect and fear. Her grand vision was to make her kingdom so strong, so well-defended, and so economically vital that no enemy would ever dare to threaten its gates or challenge its sovereignty. The enduring legacy of Queen Amina is a complex and powerful tapestry woven from threads of verified historical fact and the potent embellishments of powerful legend. Separating the two with absolute precision is often less important than understanding what the enduring legends themselves tell us about her profound impact on the collective consciousness of her people and the region. The dramatic stories of her knightly lovers and her insatiable appetite for conquest serve to elevate her from a mere historical figure into a powerful cultural archetype, a symbol of ultimate female authority. She represents female power in its most untamed, autonomous, and formidable form. She broke every conventional rule and rejected the passive, often ceremonial role of a queen consort, instead becoming a sovereign ruler in her own right who led armies and dictated terms. Her life became a permanent benchmark for leadership, courage, and assertive action. In a world whose historical narratives have often silenced or marginalized women's histories, Amina's story has roared thunderously through the centuries, refusing to be forgotten. Her influence and the physical manifestations of her rule extended far beyond her own lifetime, profoundly shaping the region for generations. The massive walls she built remained standing and functional for centuries, serving as vital defensive structures. Long after her death, some of their remnants and earthworks can still be seen and identified on the landscape today, a silent testament to her will. They became the foundations for later cities and fortifications, their basic layouts influencing urban development. The modern city of Zaria, itself named after her younger sister Zaria, still bears the name of her royal lineage, forever linking the present to her storied past. More importantly, she set a powerful and enduring precedent for female leadership in the region. She provided irrefutable proof that a woman could not only rule effectively but could conquer vast territories, build a formidable empire, and command the absolute loyalty of a military. Her story inspired generations of women who followed to aspire to power, to lead with strength, and to defiantly break the limitations placed upon them by society. In modern Nigeria and across the wider world, scholars and citizens continue to celebrate Queen Amina as a foundational national icon. Her image is a profound source of immense pride and historical identity. Schools, universities, and public institutions are named after her. Her story is a central part of history curricula, ensuring new generations learn of her prowess. She has been featured prominently in literature, music, novels, and films, her legend adapted and retold. In a country with such a rich and diverse tapestry of pre-colonial history, she stands out as a potent symbol of indigenous strength, innovation, and autonomy. She represents an Africa that was powerful, self-sufficient, economically sophisticated, and led by formidable women long before external contact. Her majestic statue astride a horse brandishing a spear stands proudly in the heart of Lagos, Nigeria, a permanent and powerful tribute to her enduring spirit and legacy. When we study Queen Amina in depth, we are not just studying the biography of one extraordinary woman. We are gaining critical insight into the sophisticated political and economic landscape of 16th century West Africa. Her life and reign provide a brilliant window into the advanced statecraft of the Hausa kingdoms. It reveals the paramount importance of the trans-Saharan trade routes as engines of wealth and vectors of cultural exchange. It shows us the constant dynamic interplay of war diplomacy and commerce that shaped the region's destiny. Her story actively corrects the outdated and erroneous colonial narrative of a passive static Africa waiting for external influence and civilization. It showcases a dynamic continent with its own powerful rulers, its own military innovations, its own complex history of empire building, and its own paradigms of leadership and power that commanded respect on a global scale. The legend of Queen Amina directly challenges our modern, preconceived notions about gender power and leadership. It forces us to expand and rethink our very definition of a queen. She redefined the title. She was a builder of cities, a grand strategist, a conqueror of lands, and a master of economic policy who understood that wealth funded power. Her life is a powerful testament to the idea that true leadership is not inherently about gender. It is about vision, courage, integrity, and the unwavering will to act decisively upon that vision. She looked at the kingdom she inherited and envisioned a vast, secure, and prosperous empire. She then spent her entire adult life tirelessly turning that vision into a tangible reality through force of arms and strength of will. Her story is not one of gentle persuasion or quiet diplomacy, but of bold, decisive action and an indomitable spirit. Ultimately, the epic tale of Queen Amina is a profoundly human story of boundless ambition and self-determination. It is about a young girl born into privilege, who refused to be limited by her society's narrow expectations for women. She took the circumstances of her royal birth and used them not as a cage but as a launchpad for achieving historical immortality. She was flawed, she was fearsome, and she was utterly magnificent in her scope. Her motivations were a complex and human mix of a noble desire to protect and elevate her people and a raw personal drive for glory, power, and everlasting legacy. This combination of the noble and the personal makes her deeply real, complex, and endlessly fascinating. She was not a perfect saint from a parable. She was a relentless, unstoppable force of nature who shaped her own destiny and that of her nation. Queen Amina's name echoes powerfully through time, not as a whisper from a forgotten past, but as a resonant battle cry for strength and autonomy. She remains the definitive warrior queen of African history, a figure whose historical reality is as compelling as any legend. Her story does not truly end with her physical death. It continues to live and inspire. Every time a student hears her name and feels a spark of courage. It continues every time a person defies a societal expectation to pursue a grander ambition. She is more than a historical figure recorded in annals. She is an eternal symbol of what it means to lead without apology, to build with purpose, and to fight relentlessly for one's own destiny and the destiny of one's people. That is the powerful, complex, and authentic legacy of Queen Amina of Zaria, a legacy that continues to command respect and awe